Today we are talking about misconceived political credentials in Nigeria, part of the Nigerian voters education series. It would be good for you to give an attentive, pay rapt attention, and so you'll be able to assimilate these misdirected factors, the misconceived political credentials in Nigeria. The first among the misdirected factors or the misconceived political credentials in Nigeria is issue of age. There has been an incessantly vociferous complaint about age of persons who aspire to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as if competence for good governance is dependent on age. This is accompanied by clamor for consideration of youthful persons to be the acceptable qualification for political leadership. By introspection, the longing for a younger leader in several parts of experiences has very often led to government administration that later focus on material wealth accumulation and economic maximization that turn unhealthy for the citizenry as they detract development potentials. One of the cross-cutting demands and the recurring mantra outside the 5 demands of the Nigerian NSAS protesters that took place in 2020 was that leadership position should be taken over by the youth. This has been a repeated mantra during the current electioneering process taking place in Nigeria. Ridiculously, some of them propose maximum age limit for the office of the president. It is my considered opinion that age has nothing to do with leadership. A man's intellect can never diminish because he has grown old. Rather, long living breeds experience that adds more to knowledge. Whether a man is young or old, if he is intellectually bankrupt, that remains the level of his intellectual capacity. Intellectual capacity and wisdom do not really come with age. A moron or a simpleton does not become a wise or intelligent man when he grows older. Neither does a wise man turn to a moron when he grows old. He only becomes an old moron, or if he was a wise man, a wiser man than due to experiences. You will agree with me that most of the leaders in Nigeria, political leaders especially, today took up political offices when they were quite young. Yet, there is absolutely no difference between those people of yesterday and of today. The difference could be in the changes of position, ranks, and offices. They never change or decline in their intellectual capacity and eccentricity. The United States of America is the greatest country of the world at the moment in terms of economy, science, military might, and technology, development faster, sense of humanity, human rights protection, and people-oriented political culture and democratic institutionalism. The U.S. government leadership represents a spectrum of formidable democratic tradition, well systematic and classic and infused in people's rights system. Many of the political leaders of the United States have been men and women of late 60s and 70s years in age. Currently, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, is about 90 years in age, while the President of the USA, United States of America, Joe Biden, is about 77 years old. Their age has nothing and have never been, their age have never been a debating factor in the US politics, as age does not affect their performance and competence. Many other developed countries, such as Singapore, which current president is about 90 years old, the United Arab Emirates, the Saudi Arabia dynasty, countries like North Korea, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, that run monarchical governments, as well as the State of Israel, Germany, Japan, China, seldom have young persons as heads of states and heads of government. These also include the monarchical system of Great Britain, ruled by Queen Elizabeth. These are all developed countries, and each of their leaders have never been a deciding factor in their development index or in the development index of those countries. Let's talk about issue of academic certificate. It has often been observed that many Nigerians, or first majority of Nigerians, in their ignorance and demonstration of intellectual poverty, attempts to disqualify elective political aspirants on the basis of academic certificate. This is another grave error, as academic qualification has very little role to play in governance and knowledge-based system. Have you ever asked why, with much emphasis on college certificate, Nigeria remains an anti-intellectual society? On the continual emphasis on academic qualification, as if such is a determinant for good governance. This demonstrates lack of proper education among Nigerians. The vast majority of Nigerians are not educated enough to know that even the section of the Constitution of Nigeria, in Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, which demands education up to school certificate level, is a flagrant breach of the principles of democracy, as was only inserted into their constitution by the drafters who are bereft of knowledge and operationality of the system of democracy. That is, in democracy or in a democratic system, the government is a government of the people. You cannot deprive a man who has the capacity to vote his right to contest and be voted for in democracy. Democracy is a system of government which the citizens govern themselves either directly or through representatives periodically elected by the citizens. There is a difference between being collegiate and being educated. The vast majority of uninformed people think that having academic certificate tantamount to being educated in a country that is still fused on a third world mentality. In the contrary, academic certificates are a formality or standardization of a social contract status. It's different from education. Education means having the necessary social, environmental, corporate, and public policy experience combined with character and intellectual prowess that can manifest positive outcome and productivity. That is the meaning of education. Let's talk about the issue of religious identity. One of the grave problems that affects quality of leadership and governance in Africa is religious identity. Chauvinist political elite and non-elite statesmen and their followers continue to exploit the influence of religion to promote narrow political context based on religious-based identity. These erodes attention on competence and prevent good governance. Religious background should not be a factor in political choices and social contract. Competence, only competence, should be emphasized. Another issue is the issue of ethnicity identity or ethnic identity. Ethnic identity in social contract is an arbitrary propensity that blocks good potentials of governance and excellent administration. One of the reasons that Nigerians remain least developed till this era is that ethnic chauvinism has always been reflected as the topmost consideration in political affairs and management system of the institutions. It is pretty simple. Everyone has the right to choose his own leaders. No one has the right to take such right away. So these misconceived political conspiracies of the moment that have galvanized the minds of Nigerians are factors that stand against development, that blocks the eyes of the citizenry from making the right choice in the electionary process. We are surrounded by opinions, some of which will continue to usher in leadership strategies of mismanaged and misspent civic responsibilities. We see the hours and opportunities which should be dedicated to progress freighted away in pathetic effort to escape from devastating social life and bad governance instead of overcoming them. The greatest problem of the third world countries' citizenry is intellectual poverty. This has led to critical mass zombieism with the absence of knowledge-based system. Zombieism is a situation where the popular opinion, no matter how inadequate, unsubstantial, lukewarm it is, are being followed by a greater number of persons because of intellectual poverty. There has been a decline in the belief that certain things might not be based on general public opinion, than on an intellectual analysis, fact and truth. Analysis, fact and truth have been replaced by futile philosophy that guarantee no proper meaning. They are striving only to immerse the citizens more deeply into the bog of frustration that makes natural process and development to become illusions, and that account for policy and politics of governance being based solely on blackmail and exaggeration that are anchors and drift as the only stand and practical particulars for a reasonable man. Let me tell you how this kind of philosophy works. In 2014 and 2015 presidential election in Nigeria, many Nigerians saw change from the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan-led PDP government, the sole purpose of which they were convinced to support General Muhammadu Buhari was that he is a man of integrity and he will end corruption in public service of Nigeria. All other factors and all other facts for consideration were of no moment to many Nigerians. All Nigerians needed was a change and a man of self-professed integrity to take over without analysis of the centricity and competence of the man who is currently the president and whose administration has plunged the country into a failed state heading towards a collapsed state status. This attitude of the citizens in making a regrettable choice of leaders has risen partly out of wrong conception of true progress, partly out of means with ends, but of which are bettered by intellectual poverty that accentuate zombieism. Good governance and a better developed society are partly realized only when citizens learned social planning, which is a phenomenon that welcomes no contradiction, but a construction of social constraint that blends both public civil responsibility and state responsibility. So, of what difference would those under the age of 55 and academic certificate holders make? Or what difference of a president and vice president being a Muslim or a Christian make? Or what difference of a president and vice president being a Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, Ijaw, or any of the ethnic minorities extraction make? There is absolutely no difference. The only thing that makes a difference is the competence, intellectual prowess, the character, which are enveloped by those factors that enhances or guarantee good governance. Character, competence and productivity, intellectual prowess and competence. Character, patriotism, the spirit of patriotism, intellectual prowess and competence, which is demonstrated by productivity. These are the things that make a difference. Inherently, the yardstick for political leadership and management choices are intellectual competence and productivity, which are infused in knowledge-based systems. These, when combined with political ideology, erodes ethnic and religious interests and all other pseudo-democratic tendencies and prejudicial sentiment ceases to exist. In such society, where leaders are chosen based on merit instead of religious or ethnic sentiment, the potential for good governance and competence is enhanced, and this guarantees development and nationhood. Nigerians should be educated to know that neither age nor certificate is a problematic factor in Nigerian leadership and governance. That age, certificate, religious sentiment, and ethnic sentiment have no good or a better role to play in launching in egalitarian society. Let me draw an analogy to the United States of America, which is a knowledge-based system. It is a system of ideology, patriotism, productivity, and competence, and leaders are chosen based on these criteria. Civil servants are assessed based on these criteria for employment. These include the police and the military personnel and all other public servants, and the politicians, the governors, the mayors of local government areas, provinces, and the governors of state. The United States Constitution does not deprive anyone on ground of academic qualification, age, ethnicity, or religion. But he who is without adequate knowledge cannot go out to compete because he cannot compete, because the system has been programmed or has programmed itself so much that morons cannot take up leadership and sensitive position in public service of the United States of America. So this is all about the system. So you see in Nigeria, even those that seek reform are suffering from the same tragedy that disadvantages the person whom is accused of lack of competence to the detriment of the entire citizenry. That is one of the sample of intellectual poverty. In all the malls, for example, all the malls and shops were looted in Nigeria during the civil unrest of 2020, that is the NSAS protest. The report was that none of the bookshops were touched. No books were removed. Nigerians, worst of them all, the Jews, who are seeking for reform and good governance, do not read. They only read to pass examination. They concentrate exclusively in exotic spectacular life like BB Naija, gossip and discussion of personality and not issues, with penchant for materialism, big man syndrome, flashy cars, houses and sex. no interest in knowledge system. That is typical of anti-intellectual society, where positive reform is hard to build or difficult to construct. So of what difference would they make if the youth are given opportunity to govern? There is absolutely no difference. Nigeria has a problem of intellectual poverty and character disorientation. These two concepts are interwoven. It is not age or college qualification or religion or ethnicity. Those are not the problems of or causes of underdevelopment in Nigeria. Religions or ethnic interests will not resolve Nigerian problematic contraption. Age or academic certificate will not also resolve the Nigerians' problematic contraption. They rather accentuate. That is why some of them who were upfront in civil liberty, human rights, and good governance advocacy, once they are given appointment, they become defenders of bad governance, because everything tends to serve and not to knowledge system or patriotism and service. Hence, the predilection for corruption that make the country surrounded by tragedies. It becomes increasingly necessary that we change our mindset, grow our intellectual poverty, and chart a course for a new Nigeria. Thanks to you for listening to this presentation, and I hope Nigerians will try to learn, chart a course for a new Nigeria by starting first by developing themselves to outgrow disorientation and intellectual poverty, and focus on priorities that welcome development and good governance, and not otherwise. God bless you.